everyone. Hi. How's everybody doing? Good. Yay. We feeling awake today, maybe a little tired, get a little jitters out. I need my jitters out, so. Hi. Hi, thanks. My name is Emmy Scott. I'm honored to be here with you guys today. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to be talking about equity as infrastructure, really about how we engage Gen Z and the importance of engaging Gen Z. Let me get my slides going. You guys will notice this QR code in the bottom left corner. I had to do my lefts and rights like that. If you guys feel called by anything I share today, please feel free to take a picture of that QR code. It has my contact on it and also ways you can support Earth Guardians. So Earth Guardians is an international 501c3 that serves youth under the age of 30 to be influential leaders. We give them training and we empower them to lead solutions in their local communities that can scale globally. Thank you. And today, so I'll be talking to you guys about the importance of why we do that and then how you can be involved. But before I get started, I really want to just sit with a feeling. So if you guys can close your eyes, if you feel called to do that, maybe take some deep breaths. And I want you to sit and think about what it feels like to be 20 in today's day and age. Perhaps you have a 20-year-old at home. Perhaps you know some 20-year-olds, or you can remember what it was like to be 20. For me, this is a picture of myself when I was 22. I'm now 25 years old, serving as the executive director of Earth Guardians. And when I was 22, this was me leading my crew. And I had no idea I was going to become ED at this time, but I was very optimistic. I was hopeful. This is in 2022 because I was born December 31st, 1999. So my age is always the same age as the year. But in 2022, we had just gotten out of COVID. We were, starting to come back to community, starting to get back into the public. And so I was hosting this rally to just bring my community together. And my Earth Guardians crew, which is chapters of youth-led individuals all over the world, it's our main program that we have at Earth Guardians. They were my rock. They were my source. I don't know how I would have survived college without them. I mean that metaphorically and literally. I went to school to another state. I was born and raised in Arizona, but I went to Colorado for school. First time away from home. And I decided to get a degree in environmental sustainability studies. So I was learning about all of the chaos and crises that we were facing on a daily basis while I didn't have my normal support system, my family. So I really leaned on my crew. They were everything to me. And at this age, I was very optimistic. I still am. But the truth is, I was also feeling a lot of other feelings, such as anxiety, depression. I have a mood disorder. I was diagnosed with a mood disorder when I was in college. So that just added extra layers to everything that was going on. And unfortunately, these feelings that I was having are not unique to me. There are many, many people my age who feel this way. And maybe when you were sitting with that feeling of how it would be to be 20 today, maybe that was the first feeling that came to your head was, I would be anxious. I would be worried. And with all the other folks that came up and talked today, with Susie's talk yesterday, I'm not going to harp on these statistics too much because we feel it. We all know. And it affects our daily functioning. That's really the main part that I would like for you guys to take away from that last slide, was that these feelings of anxiousness, of fear, it is when we act from those places, it creates this disconnect. And that disconnect is what we're dealing with right now, what we might be seeing. I know that some people where Tracy was up here talking, but many people have mentioned this, that it's not that my generation doesn't care. It's that we care too much. And because we care so much, we are becoming inactive, indifferent. I think about the way I felt just to do this speech. I was nervous this morning in my room getting ready. And I told myself, I'm like, I just can't wait to get this over with. And then I thought, well, why would I say that? This is something I'm very passionate about. I care so much. And it was because I was nervous that I just wanted to get through it, just wanted to get it over with. I don't feel that way anymore. But that is essentially what our young folks are feeling when it comes to solving the climate crisis. And not only that, but they feel powerless. This statistic blows my mind that 80% of global youth feel personally affected by the climate crisis, but only 42% feel powerless to then do something about it. So half of those who feel affected don't feel they have the tools, maybe the confidence, or maybe the support system to do something about that. And that's a huge opportunity that we're missing out on. My generation, born between 1997 and 2012, is the largest generation to ever exist. 25% of the global population, and I've seen statistics that say we're close to 30. That is, I believe, 5% higher than baby boomers, so largest generation to exist. Economists say that we'll make up 30% of the workforce by 2030, and that means that we'll have a spending influence of about 12.6 trillion. That's what they're predicting. So if you haven't seen the influence that Gen Z can create already, start to really think about politics, start to think about the tech, culture. Gen Z is influencing so much. And if you are not a part of engaging Gen Z, you're missing a huge opportunity. Not only that, but what happens if we do nothing? If we leave our students feeling disengaged, fearful, if we leave them in a space where they don't feel confident to step up and be the leaders that we need? Imagine what kind of world that might create. Imagine what kind of gaps we might have in skills and the labor force in our economy. I mean, it affects everything, but I don't want to harp on the negatives. This is not a story about what could happen if we don't enact. I want to focus on what would happen if we do the right thing, if we do engage Gen Z. So this is the impact from Earth Guardians. Like I said, we have 3 main programs. The Cruise program is our heartbeat of our org, but what I like to call the grounding of our work is our Indigenous Youth program, where we're able to train a cohort of 20 Indigenous youth every single year to bridge the gap between traditional ecological knowledge and traditional media training. Last year, we were able to create 10 original videos with these Indigenous youth that taught them how to tell their story, but also gave them a connection to their community. With our Speakers Bureau, that's our other program, we have youth like me who get to go out into the public and have a stage and be able to present their stories, their real life experiences. We reached an audience of 140,000 last year. Thank you. The statistic that the impact that I'm really, really proud of, though, is our Cruise program, because this really speaks to the reason why it's such a great opportunity to engage Gen Z. So we really honed in on, it's always been our bread and butter to engage youth, but we really honed in on it in the last year, and we've seen our Cruise program double since 2023. We now serve over 1,000 youth, and this was something that my team actually did not want me to put in this number in there, because we are onboarding students every single week. This number is growing exponentially. We also were able to fund 65 youth-led grassroots initiatives. So in addition to teaching them how to lead projects, we then gave them the resources to implement those projects. And we've seen our crews become so empowered that we've been able to co-write grants with them so they could scale their projects, and we've planted over 150,000 trees in West Africa. Thank you. In addition to planting those trees, they also were able to train over 200 community members in eco-agriculture to make sure that in the future, too, that there is no future degradation, that the whole community is a part of these projects. So it's very intergenerational work as well. And so I kept asking myself, like, how are we doing this? How is it that in the face of the truth that our generation cares so much that we're becoming disengaged, how is Earth Guardians continuing to thrive? And not only thrive, but double our impact. And I broke it down to this framework that might seem very similar to a lot of you guys, because so many of you in this room have touched on these points. And so I want to start with the most important thing, which is belonging. When engaging Gen Z, it's so crucial that we make sure that we are creating spaces of joy, empathy, places where I wrote on here where we treat each other like respective relatives. This is something I've learned from our Indigenous Youth Program, particularly an individual named Nina Bergelin, who was here last year. You guys may have been able to meet her. Nina is an incredible individual. She's one of our youth leaders, but she has really taught me that it's so important that we treat each other like we're relatives. And I see everybody in this room as not only a mentor, but a family member, somebody who I care deeply about. And because of that, there is no competition between you and I. When you guys succeed, I succeed, vice versa. And when we start to have that mindset of we are all in this together, it becomes a lot easier to create solutions. The second is access. Because it's one thing to be able to create this space of joy, have everybody feeling good, and it's a whole other thing to then be accessible and give access. These two things are very different concepts that are both equally as important. Meeting people where they're at is being accessible. My generation, as you guys know, might love tech, might not have the money to get to a in-person event, right? So I hear from partners a lot, I created this amazing event and I posted it on social media and then nobody showed up to it. You got a lot of engagement on social media, and then was there any follow through to make sure that you were going to be able to get the students there, right? Because I hear from my students, like, we don't have money to eat. We don't have money to buy a bus ticket. You know, how am I going to be focused on getting to an event to talk about climate change and solutions when I'm hungry, when I'm tired, when I can't even physically get to the places I need to be? So being accessible is extremely important. And then giving access. Giving access is having a seat at the table. Time and time again, I hear from people my age, well, I was invited into the space, and then I wasn't given any power to make decisions. I wasn't listened to, and there was no follow-up on why I was even in that space. And so access is extremely, extremely important. The next I have is shared responsibility. Shared responsibility is one of my favorite words because the climate crisis is so complex. We have never solved it before. This is a new issue for humanity to solve together. And if we try to do it in silos, if we try to do it alone, good luck, because it's so much. And when we create shared responsibility, we actually then it helps, losing my train of thought. When we have shared responsibility, it re-emphasizes the access and the belonging, right? When you share the responsibility, you then can think, what do I have to give? Instead of what do I have to take? That is like what Renee was talking about earlier, about being relational instead of transactional. What do I have to give to this community, and what do they need? So another thing I hear about the shared responsibility piece, I hear from a lot of folks in the and other generations, you know, this is going to be up to your generation, or we can't wait for you guys to solve the climate crisis. You guys are the leaders that we need. And meanwhile, your generation is still voting. You're still spending dollars in the economy. You're still participating. So you can't give up. We need your help. We need your mentorship. We need to know what you guys did wrong. We need to learn from that. So you have approaching with humility, with the truth, with a place of belonging, like we're family, that helps a lot. The last is to lead by example. Having the willingness to invest in yourself and invest in what you do, changing your infrastructure. I put this last. Usually when I create a framework like this, I'm like, focus on yourself first. I put it last because I know sometimes it can be the more challenging thing to do. I'm in therapy. I know it can be hard to reflect. So when we start with belonging, access, and shared responsibility, it becomes a lot easier to reflect and realize what you need to do to be able to lead by example. But my generation needs examples. And so we're creating our next step as Earth Guardians. We are creating a resource portal where we want to bring together everybody in this room, all of the experts, all of the engagement that you guys have. We're co-developing this resource center with Discovery Education. And it's going to be built with the 30 plus years that we've been, with our 30 plus years of resources. The vision for this resource portal is for it to be an ecosystem where not only are our students learning, but they're then having hands-on activities that reinforce that learning. And then they're able to go into a community, a global community that then helps them feel belonging, access, shared responsibility, and examples for them to then go back into the process of learning and start it all over again, with the hopes that when they turn 30, they'll re-enter our ecosystem as mentors. And so the impact that we're creating, that I'm asking all of you to hopefully be a part of, is right here, is these students that you're staring at. This is one of our students that was a part of our Project Grants program. We gave them a grant to be able to give solar lamps to some of the kids in their community. And I'll just read this quote. One of the students in 6th grade said, "Before receiving the solar lamp, I could only study during the day, which made it hard to keep up with my homework. Now I can study in evenings and better prepare for my exam. Thank you for giving me the light to achieve my dreams." And this is not only beautiful because obviously it's beautiful, right? But we also hope that Avaku, once he gets older, that he'll become a mentor that then wants to give back the same way that he was given to. And so that's what we're asking you guys to be a part of, is this resource portal. We're hoping to engage millions of students. Like I said, we have the curriculum, we have the resources, from training guides all the way to how to do community projects in your local communities. But what we are really asking for is unification. We don't want to do this alone. We want to do it with all of you. So here's my slide on what we need. Our needs are financial first and foremost. We operate off of an annual $500,000 budget, but that is just my org literally getting by. We are doing what we can. We're making that impact off of a $500,000 budget annually. But to get us to a point of thriving, we want to be making an extra $500,000 to be able to support our resource center. So if you would like to be a part of this, we are looking for today. I know that in this room, there are people who want to be our Catalyst partners. For one, I can feel it. The universe told me. Two, I also know that I want you guys to be a part of this, that not only do we desire it, but we need to be working together. So if there's anybody that feels called to be one of our Catalyst partners, we're hoping to be a pipeline between activism and long-term thriving careers. So if you own a brand, a corporation, if you're a private sector and you want to help us create those pathways, we want to co-brand with you and really be intentional about creating the modules that will create learn, lead, and lift. But also, there are more ways to support us than just funding. BASE is more than just a funding approach. It's about community. So another way to support us is to share your curriculum. We would like to promote the work that you guys are doing, but also to share our story. That is the most beautiful way to help us, is to get the word out about what we do. So I'll leave you guys on this note, is that please do not overlook the opportunity that is Gen Z. Gen Z is a force to be reckoned with, and if we continue to work in silos, not only does it harm your work, it harms the next generation. When we raise a generation of leaders, they then go to raise the next generation of leaders. So we create a cycle where we are able to regeneratively create equity through the leaders that are creating tomorrow. So please help us raise the leaders that will better tomorrow. Thank you so much.